To my left is Chief Jim Donnelly of the Warminster Township Police Department. To his right is Chief Gregory Beidler of the Bucks County District Attorney's Office. To his right is Kristen McElroy, Chief of Special Victims. And to her right is Sergeant Casey Byrne of the Warminster Township Police Department. I'm here to report, unfortunately, again, another arrest of an individual who preyed upon our most vulnerable. 65-year-old Richard Allen Adamski of Warminster Township was arrested earlier this morning for charges that involved the sexual abuse of children by way of possession of child pornography. The investigation stems from a collaborative investigation done by the Bucks County Internet Crimes Against Children's Task Force in conjunction with the FBI's Child Exploitation Unit and Internet Crimes Against Children's Task Force. And before I share the details, I just want to thank the FBI for their amazing partnership with Bucks County law enforcement. It's this type of collaboration that allows us to investigate and successfully make arrests and prosecute individuals that prey upon our children, like this individual. The allegations stem from facts that started in March 30th of this year, when the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children received a cyber tip of suspected child sexual abuse materials being uploaded from an individual. Ultimately, the tip was referred to the Bucks County Internet Crimes Against Children's Task Force in mid-May of this year. Following that, information was obtained by legal process, which does take some time, to identify where the residence was and the likely suspect involved in this case. The investigation developed the suspect, this defendant, Richard Allen Adamski, and ultimately today, a search warrant was executed on his home. He resides there alone, and ultimately evidence was recovered from his home that confirmed, in fact, that he is the individual that is alleged to be in possession of this child sexual abuse material. Not only do we believe that he is responsible for possessing child sexual abuse material that resulted in the March cyber tip, but we believe he's been engaging in this type of criminal conduct for years. What I'm sure you all noted was most concerning is that this individual is employed as a teacher at Nativity of Our Lord Catholic Elementary School here in Bucks County. Not only was he employed as a longtime teacher, but he's also been involved as a coach through other schools and other youth organizations. Again, that fact alone causes us all great concern. We know his reach is far when it comes to being in contact with children. At this juncture, we have no information to indicate hands-on perpetration of sexual offenses committed against children. Now, that does not mean to suggest for any minute that we don't take the crimes that he's charged with as very serious and very concerning. So obviously, we're here to urge the community to be aware, and if anybody has any pertinent information, please contact us at the number provided. Again, I have to praise the men and women on these teams that work in collaboration with one another and for their unwavering commitment to keeping our children safe here in Bucks County and in the region. We are so fortunate to have these members of law enforcement who work so well together to make sure we respond to each and every one of these tips. I'm going to turn it over to Chief Donnelly, and then we'll both be available for any questions you may have. Oh, and excuse me, I did fail to mention that bail was set earlier today at $500,000, 10%. The defendant was remanded to the custody of the correctional facility.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Jim Donnelly with the Warminster Township Police Department. I'd like to take this time to thank Jen Chorin and her office. Without her leadership and her progressive thoughts on how to work these task force, Warminster wouldn't be able to find these criminals and bring them to justice. So at this time, through the hard work of the Bucks County detectives, the FBI, and the Warminster Police Department, the men and women there, I'd just like to thank Jen and her leadership and her team for helping us bring this guy to justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions?
You mentioned that this has been going on for years. How many years has it been accessing this?
At this point, our evidence indicates roughly 4 years. However, that's just preliminary. As you know, these cases will take some time to examine all of the evidence that was recovered today, to conduct the forensic extraction of those devices, and we'll have a much better sense. But we have concern that the conduct has been ongoing for quite some time.
Can you give us any specifics around the conduct? What took place?
As mentioned briefly, the initial triggering event was the cyber tip, and again, I am so grateful for the work that is done. Those cyber tips we take very seriously, and that is how we can be proactive in these investigations to identify the perpetrator. But a cyber tip containing what was believed to be child sexual abuse materials, that has been verified today, that in fact the child sexual abuse materials constitute the crimes that are charged, and but I anticipate there will be more evidence and likely resulting in more charges.
The tip comes nationally in March. It doesn't get to you until May,
Till May 15th.
until May 15th. So here we are, you have less than 30 days basically to find the address, Lincoln's going to get there. What happens between March and May? Why does that
I,
so long?
I can't speak to that, and it does seem like, to the outsider looking in, a long period of time, but sadly I can say these tips come in so frequently. It's alarming how frequent they come in. And so I am grateful. I mean, I recall the days when we didn't have a system in place that mandated these tips be provided to law enforcement. And I can tell you, the day we received the tip, the outstanding detectives out of my office, in conjunction with the outstanding detectives in Warminster Township and Ben Salem Township, and my colleague Kristen McElroy, they were pursuing legal process that very same day from the internet service provider Verizon. Then you have to wait for that provider to give you the information that will help identify then the subscriber, then help identify the suspect.
This was a man who had award after award and was coaching for leagues within 2 different township school systems.
It shakes the foundation of your trust when you have an educator, especially an elementary school educator, engaging in this type of criminal conduct, that type of deviant sexual attraction to pubescent age or pre-pubescent age children. That's not normal, we know that. So it shakes your foundation. So that's obviously the priority right now, to assess the safety of any child that was in his care. At this juncture, we have no evidence of hands-on offenses, but certainly, we will be culling through every piece of evidence to make sure that is in fact the case.
Do those leagues and those schools now know? Did you contact them before we're here today?
Yeah, and again, I just credit this team, because as this is unfolding, and this is a fluid set of circumstances, they're executing the search warrant, they're gathering irrefutable evidence, and these are allegations, I have to say that, but irrefutable evidence, and then with that, then immediately notifying all the respective parties who either employed this individual or had this individual volunteering to work in some capacity, to make sure that they're aware so they can do what they need to do. Any other?
Do you believe there's other victims out there? I know you've mentioned there could be, but do you believe at this juncture that there are?
It's hard to say. I can tell you this. The reason why we call it child sexual abuse materials is every time an image of a child is shared online, that child was victimized by someone. There was a hands-on victimization of that child, and then it's being shared by like-minded people who have a deviant interest in small children. So there's no question in my mind we will have more evidence. The question as to hands-on offenses remains to be seen. I hope and pray that's not the case, but certainly we will go through every piece of evidence to determine if in fact that was.
You talked about getting a lot of tips, and we've been in this room many times talking about the same situation. Your message to parents, because you talk to parents out there and they say, I don't want to send my kid anywhere.
It's so hard. It is so hard as a parent. Every time a case like that, I've been doing this for 26 years, every time a case like this happens, it causes me to reevaluate. You can't, you have to be aware. And the media does such a great job always highlighting, the warning signs that we share. And I just urge you to do that again, like you always do. But you also can't not allow your children to participate in sports and go to school. But just the awareness is key, and the information and the dialogue, having the dialogue with your children early, often, and don't ever presuppose that you just have to have it constantly.
Was he producing this material? Distributing, what is it, which is it?
So as you may know, initially we have the initial pieces of information, and then we do a forensic extraction. So time will tell. The initial cyber tip was uploading information. So we don't know about manufacturing at this juncture.
Did you utilize any canines, any canines?
I wouldn't say if we did, but I know what you're asking, and they're pretty remarkable. But I wouldn't say if we did.
House and car search?
1 second, let me just verify if
Just ask them.
At this juncture, home and all devices associated with, anything on his person. But if there's additional information, we'll provide that. Any other questions?
Because he was a coach and a teacher, are you asking parents to talk to their kids if you had any awkward conversations or physical contact with them?
Absolutely. That's the message. Yes. Anyone who knows this man, cared for their children in any capacity, should be having those conversations. And then obviously we have the number. There's no bit of information that is too small. So we encourage any parents, caregivers, any coworkers to share information they may believe is pertinent to this. And then the experts will determine if it's something of evidentiary value.
How long did you teach at the school?
I believe, I know he's been a teacher for decades. I don't know exactly how long he's taught at Nativity of Our Lord, but I believe it's in excess of 30 years.
Probably 42.
Yeah, potentially in excess of 40 years. He's 65 years of age. All right, if there's, no, that's okay.
I notice he's no longer listed as one staff there. Do we know how long ago he stopped working there?
I think that information is probably as of today. I think that's as of today. As far as we know, he was still actively employed at the conclusion of this school year, which, as you can imagine, once we discovered the suspect and what he did for a living, it certainly causes us to move as swift as possible.
As for the teams he coached, were there any currently in season?
That's a great question. I can't say with certainty. I do know football oftentimes has training throughout the summer season. Track and field seems to be all year round these days. I know those were, as well as softball, were some of the sports that he listed as being involved in coaching, but I don't know. But again, that's a great question. We will.
Boys and girls sports?
Boys and girls sports, yes. If there's no further questions, thank you. Have a good day.